how to write a book in a flash on today's episode. Today's episode is brought to you by ConvertKit. To find out how ConvertKit can help you grow your business, save money, and increase your relationship with your email list, head over to servenomaster.com/ConvertKit right now.
Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss and start living your retirement dreams now, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Serve No Master Podcast, where you'll learn how to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host.
I finally finished my entire book, 20K a Day, which covers the entire process that I use for designing, writing excellent books very, very quickly. I'm excited to have that book out there, and right now it's in the hands of many of my early readers and reviewers, and you can already grab it on Amazon. If you know how to find it, it's right there. You can just look under my name or 20K a Day. And as a way of sharing my excitement that I finally completed that project, which ran through some ups and some downs because of issues in my family, I have some exciting things to share with you. Now, I dictated that entire book. It's the first book I ever dictated, so of course, as with any project, I began to run into problems. It was a learning process. That book I auto-dictated. I used software to handle the dictation. As a book that's over 100,000 words, it generated a lot of mistakes. Even a 1% mistake rate means 1,000 mistakes when you have 100,000 words. And when you have closer to a 4 or 5% mistake rate, you're looking at 5,000 mistakes. That's a lot of mistakes. It adds up. In this process, I learned a few things. Now, you don't have to dictate every book. It's one of the ways to be faster, and a lot of what I cover in the book is how to write very fast without dictation. But I've developed a new process, a new system for how I write that I want to share with you now. This is my new process, and I'm using several different new tools even since the last book. So 20K a Day, after transcribing the book, I went through a whole nightmare to get it published. The entire book I wrote in 6 days. Everything since then, everything in the past 6 months has been dealing with the editing process and fixing all those tough auto translations. And so I have a new system. My next book, Control Your Fate, is already transcribed. It already is past the rough draft phase, and it's in the final rewrite phase. Only because my eyes get tired is the book not already done. I can only edit or rewrite about 2 hours a day. And when you have a book that's 80,000 words, it's gonna take me 2 weeks or so of these 2-hour sessions or 1-hour sessions. I'm doing a chapter a day to edit it. But here's what I learned. Here's what I did different. I realized I need to hire a human to handle my transcriptions. I need to hire a human to help me write faster. And I looked at all of these resources. I researched everywhere. I looked at Upwork, I looked at Fiverr, I looked at Rev.com. All of these resources are great, but they're very, very cost prohibitive for the content I generate. As someone who's looking to generate about 100,000 words a week of content, it can end up costing thousands of dollars a week. In fact, it's more expensive through these platforms, through most transcriptions, to get your book transcribed than it is to pay someone to write the whole book from scratch. In fact, it's more expensive to have a book edited by most editors who approach me than it is to pay someone else to write the whole book and edit it. There are certain professions that are really built around short frame content. If your book is really short and it's a 1 or 2 hour recording or audio recording, then of course Rev.com is fine, it's not too expensive. But if you're doing massive content, it makes more sense to hire someone full time. And so I went to this new platform that I've been dabbling with called Outsourcely, and there's a link in the show notes. Outsourcely is where you can hire people from around the world to do amazing jobs, and I posted that I was looking for a full-time transcriptionist. So I found someone who can handle my amount of content, will work for my budget, and is awesome. Already transcribed a whole book for me, already working our way through the second book. The third book will probably be ready next week. My new challenge now is to stay ahead. The great thing is that a good transcriptionist will also edit a bit on the fly. If you pay attention to how I talk versus how I write, you'll notice that I talk in run-on sentences, I talk in ways that are considered inelegant when written down, and this is how most of us are. We're more formal when we write than when we talk. So not only do I have someone turn my words into text with far less mistakes, with a 0.01 mistake rate, they will also make the changes that I want. When I run a transcription through software such as Drag and Dictate, there's no punctuation. So you end up with these massive blocks of text, thousands of words long with no punctuation, no organization. And when you mix in that small but critical error percentage rate, you can have trouble breaking it down and interpreting it. And while you can do this and hire someone to handle a cleanup, it's cheaper and more effective to hire a full-time person to transcribe your work and edit it on the fly, because then they can hear the meaning. The error rate is far lower and the work is excellent. Yes, this is a little bit more expensive than what it costs to just use software, but when you're trying to get to that next level, and right now in my business, I'm trying to catch up to Steve Scott. Steve Scott is the awesome author of Habit Stacking. He wrote the new foreword to Serve No Master, which I'm so excited to have people read. And he has so many books on Amazon. His whole business is Amazon. He doesn't sell additional courses. And it's amazing to watch his business and see how prolific he is. And in my desire to catch him, I'm always looking for ways to be more effective and to build in better habits. This is a very powerful way to run your business, but you do have to have the time to put the content out there. Now, you don't have to hire a full-time person. You can hire someone part-time or start with a fixed number of hours and things, but when you order enough content, when you're doing enough quantity, it's totally worth it. And you can get someone really talented that can do a lot of work for you. Because of the problems with my eyes, I can't really write books on the keyboard anymore. Now my eyes are getting better. I'm doing a lot of exercises from the Bates method and I'm able to work more hours. But I also love transcribing. I love being outside. Right now I'm outside, I'm watching the sunrise, I'm standing on my porch, and I'm enjoying a beautiful morning. Why would I want to sit at the computer if I don't have to? So I'm becoming more and more of a fan of dictation, and I've been looking for ways to streamline the process, and that's what I want to share with you today. Now, there's another option that I'm also a big fan of, but there's a tool that I've started using more and more. Now, Dragon Dictate's really good, but you have to speak your punctuation when you're using this tool. You have to say your periods and your next sentences and your commas ideally so that you end up with content that's not so rough. I'm not very good at speaking the periods. Now, I have a bunch of friends and followers. I'm actually a member of a new Facebook group that's all about Dragon Dictate users that are power users, and they do those things really, really well. So I could try and train myself to speak the punctuation, but if there's one thing you know about me, I'm a dinosaur. I get stuck in my ways. I found a new software tool that is more expensive than Dragon. It charges about $12 an hour, 12 to 15, depending upon how much you do, called Trint, T-R-I-N-T. Again, link in the show notes. What Trint does is generates a really, really good transcript with a lot of punctuation, and then it syncs it up to the audio inside their app so you can then listen to your audio and fix the mistakes on the fly, just like a really good transcriptionist would do. It's actually a really, really wonderful tool. I wish it wasn't so cost prohibitive, but when I'm doing small transcriptions myself, I do it a lot. Now, when I write the blog posts to go with these podcasts, I write them by dictation and I run them through Trint so that I can write them quickly. One of the delays, one of the reasons that I have had a big gap in my podcast output is that my eyes are too tired to write the actual podcast episodes. I have dozens of recordings ready to go out, but the podcast episodes, the little blog posts themselves, are what's limiting me. The smallest part of the process, but because of my eyes, I can only do so much work per day, and I have to do other work first. Unfortunately, podcasts have fallen to the bottom of the pile, but now having dictation really, really helps me. So as soon as I finish recording the main podcast episode, I record my little blog description of the episode, run that through Trint, and everything's ready to go. It's a really, really wonderful tool. Trint is great for smaller quantities. So if you're doing, for example, a 2-hour recording, we talked about doing a 2-hour book in the past, then you can run it through Trint yourself. It's going to cost you about $30 to turn over that dictation. It's not too expensive. It's a great place to start. If you were to run the same dictation through rev.com, which is nice because you don't have to do any work yourself, it will cost you around $120. So it's 1/4 the cost. It's pretty good as you're getting started. It's just as you go up to quantity, if you're doing 10 hours a week or something like that, it's definitely worth it to hire a person. So these are the two resources that I recommend to write books fast. They're going to really help you accelerate what you're doing as you move into dictation and dabble with dictation, hiring a full-time person or using this awesome software. I always want to over-deliver, so beyond recommending 2 tools that I love, I want to share a little information about how you can become a fast writer. If you've read any of my other material or you've followed me in the past, you know that I believe research is king. Research is everything. And the secret to my dictation, the secret to my quantity, is that I'm always thinking about the future. Sometimes I just don't want to write. Sometimes I just don't want to dictate. I don't want to dictate 8 hours a day. I can't do it. The most I could ever dictate is 2, maybe 3 hours in a day. And that would be 3 separate sessions of 45 minutes to an hour each. Last week I did a marathon session where in a single 2-hour period, I recorded the audio for my new book, Networking for Job Seekers. Audio's done. It's in the queue for my transcriptionist, and eventually she'll convert it over. It's the second or third book in the queue now, but I recorded that in a single 2-hour marathon session, and at the end of it, my back was killing me from all of my pacing on the dock. And it was a pretty big storm near the end. A lot of waves were attacking me. I don't do that very often, but I wanted to prove, as I talked about in a previous podcast episode, that you can dictate an entire book in 2 hours, and I did. I put together an entire book that I will be releasing as quickly as I can, very simply. The reason I'm able to put out books so quickly is I'm always carrying my notebook. I recommend having a notebook, a paper and pen notebook. It's real. I know now you can buy one of those notebooks that you can microwave so you can rewrite in it over and over again. If you need to do that, that's fine. Those aren't available where I live exactly. They seem pretty cool. I also don't own a microwave, so it's like a double whammy. We don't have room in our house for one. We cook everything fresh, so for the first time in my life, we don't own a microwave. So we can't microwave the notebook to reuse it again anyways. But I'm always writing down book titles or book topics that I want to write about. And I have this big list of around 100 book titles just in one of my notebooks. And sometimes I look at it and I add ideas to it. I go, oh, what about a book about this? What about a book about that? And later on, I can sit down and I can research books and see what will be popular and what will be not popular on Amazon. I can see what people want to hear about and what people don't want to hear about. And as I build out more and more of these ideas, I have my ingredients for great books. They give me my second idea phase. After I have my book titles, then I'll say, oh, this one looks cool. I'll see if it seems like a popular topic. If it is, I put a little check next to it. Then I write it at the top of one of the blank pages of my book. I write that book title. And sometimes I'll just sit down outside or sit down by the ocean and I'll just write out the table of contents for books. As you know, I recommend you design your table of contents by looking at what the competition writes about. And you can look at other books. I do that a lot. What I'll do is download a couple of books through Kindle Unlimited to my book to see what kind of other people are talking about. I don't need to do it as often anymore because I've done so many books. I can get a pretty good feel for a market, especially with one I already know about. So I just write down chapter titles, and I tend to write down anywhere from 10 to 30 chapter titles. And so right now in my notebook, I have about 7 or 8 books where I have the entire outline written. I have 5 or 6 more books where I just have the title at the top of the page. I haven't started working on the outline. They're just things that I think would be valuable and things that I think would be good to add to my repertoire. There are certain books that I wouldn't write if they would take a lot of time. I'm shifting more and more into the 2-hour dictation style books. That generates about 20,000 words, which is a pretty decent read. It's like a 150-page book or so. And those sell really, really well on Amazon. Those are very effective for me. Not everyone wants to read the tome that is Serve No Master or the monster that's 20K a day, or even Control Your Fate, which is still 80,000 words. It's like a 10 or 12-hour audiobook. It's quite long. It's a lot of content. Not everyone wants to absorb content that's that long. Sometimes we want something shorter, and that's one of the other lessons I've learned from watching The Genius That Is Steve. Putting out lots of shorter books or medium-length books is a good idea. So I have these ideas for books that I could record in something that I record in a 1 or 2 hour session. And in this 1 or 2 hour session, I can record the entire book very quickly and easily, send it into my transcription process, whether I'm going to use my Person or Trint. I use both for a lot of my different things. And I can write and generate the book in a day. I love that. I love having it done quickly. But outlining and preparing stuff is critical. Whether you're writing by dictation or you're writing by hand, having your research in advance makes things a lot easier. When I was writing on my books by hand, I used to have dozens of ideas and outlines on my computer and mind maps, all prepared far in advance. This allows me to write whenever I want to. One of the big struggles that we run into as writers, the thing that slows us down, is not knowing what we're going to write about next or getting bored of a topic. Sometimes when I'm working on one book, I get bored, I jump and work on the next one. You don't have to write your chapters in order. You don't have to write your books all at the same time. Mixing up what you're writing about helps keep your mind fresh. Sometimes I'm just bored of working on one topic. I've been working on it so long, I need something to reset. And so if I change what I'm working on 4 or 5 times throughout the day, I'm far, far more efficient. I put out higher word counts. This is how you can hit 20,000 words a day. This is how I hit 40 or 50,000 words a day all the time now with dictation. Whether you write in by hand or dictating, you can hit these big numbers. Putting your research together in advance, knowing what you're going to write about, whenever the mood strikes you, you can. In fact, today, now that I've cranked out a couple of new podcast episodes and I'm getting a little bit ahead again, I'm going to work on my outlines again. I'm going to work on a couple more outlines to stay ahead. Every time I record or write a book, I then write the outline for the next one. Your books don't have to be long. They don't have to take months to write. You can put them out in 2 hours. That previous episode covers exactly how to do that. Books don't need to take you weeks or months to write. Now, for fiction, of course, it's a different process. Most of what I talk about is nonfiction, but you can accomplish great things with fiction. You can make really wonderful things happen, and that's what I want for you. As you're becoming more of a writer, as you're developing in your craft, you'll find that the faster you can write, the more time you can spend with your family. The reason that I switched to dictation was an experiment. As I wrote 20K a day, I then began to have problems with my eyes. And my problem with my eyes is that if I spend too long on the computer, my eyes start to hurt. I started to have eye strain. I have no problems if I'm outside. I live on the equator. People tell me all the time, oh, the problem is the sun. And I say, no, the problem for me is the opposite. When I'm out and the sun is blazing in my eyes, it resets my eyes for me. My eyes feel better. I can see a great distance right now. I don't have any problems with my distance vision or my reading vision. It's simply the radiation that comes out of computer screens is very unnatural. Having it shoot into my eyes all day long makes them tired or makes them feel sore. Sometimes it gives me a headache. Writing faster, getting my work done faster, allows me to spend more time away from the computer. I get to spend more time with my wonderful kids, my wife, my dog, and the people I love, and that's what I want for you. That greater efficiency means that you make the same amount of money and have more free time. And then you can even make more money and have more free time. And that's really the dream, isn't it? To work 2 hours a day and make more money than you were before doing 8 hours a day. I dictate about 4 times faster than I write by hand. I love writing by hand. I love writing that way. When I write by hand, I do put out a better product. This is why editing a dictation, even when it goes through my transcriptions, takes me longer than editing my own works, but that's okay. The overall process is still far, far, far faster. I want you to really think about what you want to accomplish with your writing, what you want to accomplish with any of the tasks in front of you. It's important to have clearly defined goals and to have a clear idea of your future. I know that I want to get to a point where I have at least 50 books on Amazon. That's my current goal. That's what I'm working towards. That's why I'm writing so much. I'm getting super prolific. That's why I have dozens and dozens of book titles. That's why I have more than a dozen outlines finished. And that's why I have half a dozen books that I've already dictated or that's some part of the dictation, transcription, editing process. I want to really put out a lot of content to get to my goal. I don't want to wait 3 years to put out 50 books. I want 50 books by Christmas. That's my dream. That's just 7 months away. And if you break that up, that means I need to put out a book a week. Probably not going to be able to do that. So I know that my goal isn't quite something I'm going to hit, but I do want to have at least halfway there. I want to get to really deep content. I want to have 25 books at the least. That's kind of my minimum goal. I'd love to hit 50, but I know it's a little bit unrealistic even for me. But I'm trying my best to get there, having a clear goal in front of me. I know why I'm writing and I know what my plan is. Now, for the past year, my goal was different. My goal was really to build out Cerebral Master as a website, and that's why I was putting out so many blog posts, so many podcast episodes, and so many products on the back end. You know, I have courses about how to become a writer, how to write faster, how to outline, how to create video products in the direct marketing space very effectively. I have products on networking and podcasting. They're all very, very valuable tools and very wonderful. But I wanted to go to the next level. And this year, it's rebuilding my foundation. So now that my website is strong and I'm happy with the content there, and of course I will continue to build new products there, my focus for now is really expanding what I'm doing in books, expanding what I'm doing on Amazon. Having a large quantity of books that are all $2.99, $3.99, $7.99. Just putting out huge number of books. Well, quantity is a quality all of its own, and I absolutely believe that. The faster I can write, the more books I can put out, the sooner I can hit my goal and I can catch up to my current mentor and hero, Steve Scott. I love what he's doing on Amazon and I want to get to the same level. So even though I'm further up the mountain than you, I'm not all the way at the top, I still have more things I want to accomplish. The faster I write, the sooner I can accomplish them. And the same thing for you. The faster you write, the sooner you can accomplish all those goals in front of you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Serve No Master. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back tomorrow with more tips and tactics on how to escape that rat race. Head over to servenomaster.com/podcasts now for your chance to win a free copy of Jonathan's bestseller, Serve No Master. All you have to do is leave a 5-star review of this podcast. See you tomorrow.
You've just listened to another amazing episode of the Serve No Master podcast. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll be back tomorrow with another amazing episode.